Greg, how's it going?
Hey Joe, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. So today we have Greg Coquillo joining us on the Data Nerd Herd. For people who don't know who you are, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah. Greg Coquillo here. I am from Haiti, born and raised. Came to the U.S. For college, and never looked back since. So my career started in industrial engineering at the plant level, performing different positions, whether it's in supply chain or operations management, quality, safety, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, I was a product manager at some point, and now I work for Amazon. I'm a program manager. I work in the compliance section and leveraging technology to make sure that customers are purchasing products that are safe. And throughout this journey, I've been, trying to stay curious about the power of AI, and I've shared my passion on social media, most importantly on LinkedIn. And with that, uh, I was able to grow my audience quite significantly over the past years, especially right after earning the award of top voice for data science and AI. So
Congrats, man.
happy to be here. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Happy to be here and talk to you today.
Cool, awesome. Um, yeah, I guess your background. I'm curious about that. You started out in engineering, in industrial engineering. Um, I actually started out as a mechanical engineer, then went into math. Long story short, but did you find that your background in engineering made it easy for you to have a curiosity about data and machine learning and AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I can say that. So the center post for industrial engineering, I can say it's operations research, at least for the program that I was studying. So we're talking, linear programming, optimization constraints, problems, and also, in the supply chain realm, you will look at um, optimal quantity of purchase, minimum order quantity. All these concepts. You have to have data. You have to have a sound understanding of data, and then you have another center post I would say would be around continuous improvement. You cannot improve a process without centering around the data. When it comes to statistical process controls, on production lines, if you want to make sure you want to reduce defects. So those are the prime use cases that industry engineers look at when it comes to concepts of lean manufacturing. And what else can I think about? Time series studies, when it comes to studying how a cycle time happens throughout a process, how to surface areas of improvements. All of these are things that we need to have a very sound understanding of math and stats to bring improvements to.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious about your impression of this. I come from a supply chain background as well, and I kind of feel like whatever we call data science these days, it's basically we're kind of doing it for a really long time, and in the operations area. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I totally agree with you. So back when I was in supply chain, the tool I was using was performing the time series for me and taking care of the seasonality and telling me when to order and things like that. And it was kind of like that black box.
Hmm.
It was a software, third party software, and we would just include, what what the future volumes would be, and it would tell us, okay, based on that, you need to purchase at this period, this period, this period, kind of thing. Or we would plug in the actual demands into it, and it would kind of dictate what to order, when to order, and how much to order, and things like that. So um, with that, it was kind of like the tools were already doing it for a while, and we just never called it, you know, uh, machine learning. We just never called it algorithm and things like that until now. I guess it's the big buzzwords. And I can take another
Yeah.
example in quality, right?
Hmm.
So I remember in quality, um, So before I used to be part of I used to work for a company that sold labels, and you could picture a big giant paper roll, toilet paper roll, but it's actually a label that would get cut to different
Right.
sizes that would go on like beer bottles, pharmaceutical bottles, etc. But when it's at this giant form, you have to unroll, re-roll, and things like that, and it's at high speed. So a lot of the things that we couldn't control is kind of like reduce defects when it comes to like the crease. Say, for example, you buy a bottle of milk. You probably wouldn't select the one with the label where there's a crease to it. The label is
Right.
not flush on the bottle and things like that. So those things, we installed high speed cameras that would classify how severe the defects were on that surface of the on that giant roll running at high speed to kind of make automatic adjustments to the speed of the machine, to how it centers around and things like that. So we were using computer vision to improve the production line, and we never called it machine learning.
Right.
It's been there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. What's old is new again, right? So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, because I mean, these processes and tools are in place just because you needed to get a job done, not because it was like a buzzword or something. Um, and it's interesting. I think the use cases for ML are definitely like high velocity tasks, like computer vision for labels, for example, right? Where it's just you could hire a human to do that, but that would take forever. So
Exactly. And God knows we have a lot of, you know, situations like this. And I think it's good, right? It's good that we still have people getting in between and helping machine learn by annotating images and things like that.
mhm.
It gives people jobs for now, right? So it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is interesting though when you start seeing stuff like forecasting being called machine learning.
Yeah,
So, because as far as I know, there's not really like a model to train per se when you're talking about a forecast. It literally just takes an input and produces an output. So yeah, it's
yeah, because it uses a finite formula, right? And all you have to feed into it, you feed it the data and transforms it, and it outputs something for you. So I don't know. I see why they would put it inside of the whole machine learning piece because it kind of forecasts future state. So I can see it fit there, but I can see also that it's different than the other ones, right? The other
yeah, yeah.
algorithms.
I guess it's true. It's kind of like saying like because linear regression is even like classified as no pun intended as machine learning now, even though it's like literally just what people have done from Kingdom Come, right? It's like just like the oldest
Yeah,
extrapolation formula there is. But you know, at the end of the day, I can go either way. Frankly, it's I don't know. I more just find it interesting how terms sort of morph after a bit, but that's just
yeah.
me. I don't know. So
And I wonder too, the companies who've been doing it for so long, did they give up to peer pressure to rebrand themselves to stay relevant for continued sales, right? So they've been offering that service for so long. They've been doing forecasting services for so long. They've been doing linear regression for so long, and now with the buzzwords out there, they have to rebrand themselves so they don't get left behind.
I mean, did your label company did it change its pitch to being like AI powered labels or something?
No, not even, not even. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, they were just using a technology from a third party, installing it
right.
like cameras at the sites. But I'm talking about the ones that would give you the software of a
Oh
supply chain,
yeah,
for example.
yeah. Oh, actually,
Like,
let me check real quick. I got one company here.
like I know SAP, for example, they had to, come up with some modules like SAP HANA or whatever that would get, the AI, brand on it that, hey, we are AI powered now, even though we've been doing this for so long. Now I have to tell you verbatim that I'm doing it.
Here's one. Let me share my screen real quick. Here's one company I I've known the guy who's run DemandWorks for quite a while. It's a demand forecasting tool That's used kind of in like I would say small to medium sized companies. I think some big ones do too, but it's a really good supply chain. But I'm trying to see if they have anything that says AI in here.
Yeah,
Nope.
that'd be interesting.
Nope. But it's this pool has been around for I think over 20 years now.
Uh,
So yeah, so at least them, but I'm sure a lot of others have, So
and and I bet you they're not doing anything different than Anova Arima, and then build some sort of um, stochastic models or whatever um,
yeah,
on top of all of that.
because I mean here's the deal with forecasting too. It's like you're always going to be wrong, right? So like no matter how fancy you try and make your algorithm, I mean you can try and squeeze more efficiency or I guess more accuracy out of your forecast, but at the end of the day, it's still like it's still wrong and subject to shocks. So
Yeah.
like
So for to me, this is the way I look at it. Any forecasting tool, the real value is how well you are in minimizing the delta.
yep,
Right. The more you minimize the delta, the more value people will see into you. And I think the consumers, we've made peace with there's no way we're going to have 100% certainty, right, in a forecast. So, but the closer you get to it, the more value I give you. The closer you are at minimizing that delta,
hmm,
so the better you are.
yeah. It's because at the end of the day, it's you're using forecasts so you can respond to customer demand, right? So you have products on shelf and components available for other stuff, right? And yeah, and it's interesting. I'd like to get your take on this too, because it's something I've been thinking about, especially in due to COVID in the last year and other supply shocks. Like, what are your thoughts on just building more robustness into a supply chain versus trying to run super lean?
I think more robustness around supply chain now, given that the technologies that we have available, we have to go outside just the whole, you know, value chain, the whole supply chain. We have to go outside of that to get other signals
Hmm.
that can correlate to, okay, there's going to be an issue. You're familiar with the bullwhip effect,
Yep, very.
right? So something like COVID probably created a major bullwhip effect, right?
Oh, yeah, I can
So
imagine.
created all the way up to for paper towels, for example, the trees probably felt it the last,
Hmm.
right? So the trees were like, oh my God, why are you cutting so much right now? So, an example I'm taking. But nowadays, I think people are able to add more signals to it. Kind of like I'm thinking, you know, uh, sentiment analysis on based on stock positions and things like that. What are people saying on Twitter about toilet paper, for example, which is a key use case I like to use. How can that be used for indication that you need to stock more
Hmm.
of that? Because people are starting to talk about, hey, last week I purchased 5 rows. Next week I'm planning on getting 20. So
Right.
those are the signals that you could use to kind of uh, uh, position yourself better to supply your customers.
Hmm.
And then another thing I can see too is um, how can you put signals upstream so you can understand where to position yourself. A quick example I can see is, for example, um, can the increase in production of the graphic cards indicate that computers production or computer sales are going to go up? Something like that.
Hmm.
So if you can have signals upstream where you kind of checking the raw materials, these manufacturers, how are they producing? Are they seeing any ups or downs? And what are the finished products that will be affected by that? So with that,
Yeah.
people will have to build like very fancy, models to kind of connect them all to find the optimal inventory level that they have to keep to minimize losses and capture opportunities and be flexible enough on the
Hmm.
market.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, in supply chain, it really all does come down to the forecast, right? I mean, that's what any manufacturer, any of your partners are going to be asking for. So yeah, I agree. And I felt this way too for a while. I did a lot of demand planning back in the day, and it's the typical approach is just take your demand and push that forward and see what happens. But I think to your point, now that you can get more signals, I think it'd be great to start incorporating these. I know a lot of people do now, or at least they're starting to get better with their modeling, which is great. So, um, yeah, because on its own, the demand is you know, if you're just taking your demand, that's a huge lagging indicator actually.
Yeah,
It's because all the information is baked into each sale, but it's hard to get any signal out of that because it's just a quantity being sold, for example, right? There's no
exactly.
reason behind it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can even go government signals, right? Two governments fighting each other, right? So China says, or US says, tariff on everything coming from China. How does that send you a signal for all the raw materials you're purchasing from China, so you can
Hmm.
position yourself better, right? So I think people they know it. They have tools, as you said, that can provide them a little bit more flexibility to be uh, responsive enough and flexible enough for their customers to serve them on time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting, and also just seeing how it's interesting. I'd like to get your take on this. I'm starting to see operations research come back into vogue too. I don't know that it ever went away, but I think it like deep learning pretty much just eclipsed everything else. But
Yeah,
I'm starting to see it come back. Are you?
I, I am too, and I'm pretty happy about it. The only thing is, it's probably something if I ever get deep into it, I will have to go back to the books.
Hmm.
And yeah, I probably showed this before. I still have my book here that kind of beat me, but keeps me honest.
Nice.
So you can see how thick this thing is. So to tell you the truth, um, what I'm seeing is a combination of the two,
Hmm.
which is machine learning uh, and operations research combined together, depending on the use case. I think during the Harpreet's session, I mentioned the example of Expedia that's doing something like that, where depends on the time and a person would make a search about a combination of hotel, car, or place they want to do vacation on. They have a machine learning algorithm that gives them the best price, best
Mm.
rebate, and things like best deal, really. Where at the same time, they're optimizing their profit. So every time I see what is what is the best price can you estimate for me, right? I see a predictor. And every time I hear optimal, I hear operations research. So with that, what they were doing was using operations research to send signals to that ML model. And they had this giant ML model that was getting different signals to spit out different predictions with regards to the criteria as they set. Like if you're a consumer, depending on where you are, if you were going to Hawaii for certain weeks or whatever, it would know how to package that deal for you, where you felt like you had a good deal for yourself, but also Expedia felt like they were, or not felt like, knew they were also making money.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely seeing operations research coming back, and I'm happy to see it grow. Another key thing too that I'm seeing there for OR is I hope that they continue to uh, serve the hospital use cases.
Mm.
Like how do you treat patients as fast as possible? How do you optimize the routing systems of ambulances? Things like that. They're all interesting use cases, and I'm also excited to see it being put together with federated learning, even
Mm.
right when it comes to transportation and things like that. So
That's really
lots
cool.
and lots of use cases, and I hope it's going to continue to come back.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's something that machine learning in and of itself doesn't solve, right? You couldn't solve a constrained problem, for example, using
Exactly.
ML, right? So, yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I like the idea of federated learning too. It's pretty wicked. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
let me turn off my get my chat's blowing up here. Sorry. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome. And then I guess, this background, I mean, how did this, how did you wind up getting interested in, I guess delving into data science, and I guess leading that to becoming a top voice in data on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it only happened recently. I got bought into the buzzword and I was like curious to see, okay, what is up with this data science thing? And I mean, I was comfortable with data. I'm not the best. I'm just able to understand a business process and understand how to leverage data to do it. If I can't do it, I'm always good at bringing the right teams together to get the job done. So with that, my last company before joining Amazon, I was with a chemical pharmaceutical company. There, I had access to quite a bit of data, and and I guess I felt a need to help the company accelerate how they did business and how they could minimize customer churns and also increase the amount of contracts that they were putting with customers. It was one of those situations where it took forever to issue a quote, and it was a B2B business.
Mm.
And with that, it was if you think about a quote in a manufacturing setting, you have to give your customer, you have to have access to multiple things. You have to know whether they're a returning customer, whether they're where did you supply them with your material? Are they in France, in US, or just the US? If US, what states, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of transportation channel did you use? What was your profit, et cetera, et cetera. And then you kind of come, up with, okay, what is your new quantity you want from me as a customer? You take all that in, and also you kind of figure out with marketing, what is the bandwidth that you have to provide some sort of rebate or discounts and things like that. And you put all that together and then you issue a quote. And given that you've made the manual calculation that you'll make a profit on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt the need to automate all of this. And I felt the need to kind of aggregate all pricing because I was responsible for pricing for my portfolios. And I started using Power BI to aggregate all data about pricing for all products. And that turned into something where sales team kind of started liking. So I took my class on my own classes of Power BI. I paid for the class. When I told my boss, he gave me back the money. And then when I started aggregating data about prices, they started liking it and they asked me, okay, we have it in US dollars. Can you do it for the other currencies? So I had to kind of find some creative ways to input 49 other currency exchange rates into the tool where you could convert now between different currencies. Then you have, it started to become what started as a dashboard became a data product because
That's
people
cool.
started subscribing to it. And I started having some sprints where I would add new features to it. So I automated the currency exchange rates where I created like ETL pipelines. Then you have marketing bought into it so they could kind of see the difference of when they're running marketing campaigns, what does it look like, et cetera, et cetera. But long story short, it's just curiosity and feel the need to fix people's problems. And the coolest one I did was a simulator that I've used. I designed the whole interface with Power BI, but I work with software engineers to load it on a server, and customers could go there and go shopping and simulate the price of the raw materials, which was based on the stock market. So something like copper, they would dial it up or down and then see how their products were affected. And then they would feel comfortable about certain movements because what we were trying to do is build a program where if copper goes up, we pass on that price to you at a certain percentage. If copper goes down, we'll also pass on that discount to you because our raw materials would get cheaper because we're buying the raw material cheap. And this is how much money you would save, et cetera, et cetera. And then they would book 2-3 years contracts with us based on how comfortable they feel with the market.
That's
So
really cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah, that solves a big problem too.
it
So
does. It does. So all I've done was what I did is I realized I had 12 years of data for copper on the stock market. all I did is went online, grabbed 12 years of data, and then I performed some statistical analysis about how far up will it go, how far down will it go, and what is the threshold? What is the threshold are we comfortable with not passing to the customer if it goes up? And what is the discount we're comfortable with giving to the customer if it goes down at some point to make sure that we're continuing to make a profit on the product?
Interesting.
And that made the customer feel comfortable about purchasing with us and not having to go to a competitor.
Yeah.
We're cheating them.
Interesting. Would you lock in copper based upon those agreements too?
No, I wouldn't lock in copper. So copper, what we're doing, we're hedging at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would lock in copper. Yeah, we would hedge and lock that price in.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the hedging wasn't 100% because it's not the best strategy because
Right.
you could hedge and lose.
Yep.
And so if the price goes in a certain directions and you're stuck at 5 and the price goes down to 4,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing out, right, on opportunities. So it's not the best strategy to hedge on 100% of your bucket, right? So
Interesting.
and for whatever the leftover, we had to leave that for if copper goes below 4, and at the same time, if it goes above, the hedge comes in as a savior,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to purchase at a higher price, and that higher price sometimes would mean you have to transfer it to the customer in terms of price, and they didn't like that. So some of the competitors, what they would say is, I would eat that loss and come to me. And we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to eliminate that and bring in a fresh program where we're willing to create transparency and transferring some of these discounts to them and transferring just a little bit of that up price to them in case the raw material went up in the stock market.
That's a really awesome use of data, though, to improve a customer experience.
Yeah. That was my killer story too. That got me to Amazon, by the way.
I could see why they would be attracted to that. Yeah. So, I mean, and the fact you did this too, just kind of on a, it seems like on a whim almost, like when it started. Like that's really cool. I mean, that's like rock star material right there, right? So
Yeah.
cool.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Pretty interesting stuff. And at this point, you have all these words about AI and things like what it does. And I started taking classes, machine learning classes, Udemy, Coursera, you name it. LinkedIn Learning itself has some classes, and with that, I've been sharing my experience online. And
That's cool.
again, I don't consider myself a data scientist. I am maybe a data science learner or student, and definitely see myself on the business side, but also want to make an effort to get as close as possible to be able to have technical conversations and be able to translate those into business terms that everybody can understand and see value through. So that's how I see myself.
That's cool. I mean, the way I see you, I think you're more of a data scientist than a lot of data scientists I know. So,
Thank you, man.
yeah,
I take that as a compliment. I appreciate that.
Mhm. No, I mean, you're out there. I think you have a track record of using data to solve business problems. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of what I would hope a lot of data scientists would do. I think it's debatable whether or not some end up doing that, but that's a different discussion. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, at the end of the day, your job is literally to add value. So,
Yeah. And what I would advise anyone is to make it as simple as possible,
mhm.
because simple can impress. A simple solution that fixes a problem really will impress. And that gives you ammunition and partners to kind of make it more complex if needed. Because if you start at the complex state, you have more chance to fail, right? And if you fail, you break that promise, you break that trust, and nobody would want to even wait for you to start with or to make it up with a simpler solution. They don't want to hear it anymore because you broke that promise. So starting with a simple solution that solved the issue gains trust for you to make it more complex as you go.
Right. Yeah, simplicity wins, I think, time and time again. And it's interesting too, because in data science, I think the temptation has been, let's go off the deep end and try and make it as complicated as possible it's a chance to show off, right? So I can show off how smart I am, or how complicated I can make stuff, but I don't think that wins trophies very often. So
Exactly. I'd say let's leave the complications for those who have huge amount of data and resources to deal with that, and then start with the simple ones and then work your way up. And
yeah,
but do it well as you go.
yeah, yeah. For the audience, your job is not a Kaggle competition. So, like,
Exactly.
don't treat it like that. Or do. I mean, if you work at Kaggle, I guess. Go for it.
Exactly.
So, that's awesome. And you make a lot of content too around data. I mean, do you walk me through that whole process and the content side? Do you do you put a lot of effort into your content, or is it more kind of just, throw it out as it happens?
I never plan my content, but I do when I decide to post. If today I say I'm going to post, I do take a little bit to kind of like go around, find articles that I found interesting. Typically, I've read the article already, and I kind of keep everything here. It's good and bad. Bad because I could do better and increase my, followers more, but good because I don't want to spend too much time there because I'm super busy.
Right.
So what I do is, I think what people have to realize is in life, you have to surround yourself with quality pipeline, whether it's quality pipeline of friends or networks. If you're a startup CEO, you have to have a pipeline of people who can help you, say, for example, get funded. If you want to create content, you have to have quality pipeline of information, whether it's articles, anything that's educational for yourself, and anything that you're engaging in terms of side projects. Those are all quality pipelines that helps you tell a story from your point of view. And that's what I'm doing. It's just tapping into different articles, materials that people produce out there, and give it my own spin, my own understanding. And I use that as a test too, because it's very rewarding, because people would come back to me and say, oh, you're wrong, I don't agree. Or, yeah, I fully agree. And regardless whether they agree or not, I learned something new, because I learned when they say they agree, that means I got it right. I learned when they say they don't agree and share their experience, then I can readjust my initial perspective on certain things. So with that, what gets me going and being able to produce on a daily basis is just that quality pipeline coming from everywhere. Can I keep up with them all? No. I have, different places that I'm pulling data from, whether it's AI Weekly, not data, but content, AI Weekly, Amazon blogs, AWS blogs, the batch from deep learning. I mean, just to name a few.
Right.
Google itself, they got their own blogs. Facebook got their own blogs. Uber got their own blogs. I mean, it's really everywhere. You have to be able to get yourself uncomfortable and put it out there and see if you're right or wrong. And there's nothing wrong with somebody bashing your thoughts. Just take it lightly, don't take it seriously, and learn from it. Right. As long as people are not disrespecting you as a person,
Right.
and be open to just share your opinion on technology, and then that's how you get comfortable and move forward.
Yeah, I think I like your content too, because it's there's definitely I would say others in the data community that are like almost trolling in a way with their content. But yours I think is good, because it's like it's just matter of fact. Like here's an article. Here's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
That's about it really, and it's cool because it doesn't take like you're not trying to get the clicks for just for the sake of it. It seems like you're trying to add a lot of value with what you're saying. So that's cool.
Absolutely. And to tell you the truth, man, if somebody last year or last February they told me, oh, by November you will be awarded with this LinkedIn Top Voice, I'd be like, heck no. I'm not doing anything here to get attention. It's just I'm really trying to make sure I understand it, I get it, and I know too that there's an audience that's interested in it and that they would see it as valuable. And all of that have made me grateful, and also made me feel more confident that I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, I guess. so that's very rewarding for me.
Yeah, and I guess as far as like attracting followers, did that happen early on in when you were on LinkedIn, or did you see like an explosion of followers, or walk me through how you grew your audience?
I had an explosion of followers. I think I saw it coming though. So the when I got the offer from Amazon, I knew something was going to happen because I was before Amazon. I was already getting ready to start. I was already sharing online my journey. So I was already in Python, posting my first tic-tac-toe program, blah blah blah. And that was just back in 2019, I
Hmm,
would say.
cool.
My little Python code, blah blah blah, and gets 4 likes, and then I had like probably 2,000 followers, and that was heavily based on who I knew at work, who I
Hmm.
knew as friends, who I knew as family, and things like that. This was my network, and then I knew once I flipped it to Amazon, it would have a way to it,
Hmm.
but you know, I knew that would be a factor, but that didn't change the way I posted. I still shared my journey, what I've worked on, et cetera, et cetera. And I know I'm being working for a thing helps you gain audience. So I went from probably 2019, December 2019, with 2,000 followers. By the time I got the award for Top Voice AI in data science in November last year, I was at 25K. So prior to that, I was already doing a good job, sharing stuff that people were interested in because I was interested in it too. And then from uh, the Top Voice Award in November last year to now, I doubled that already.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a set of events that can help you accelerate, um, and go from there.
Hmm.
So
That's interesting, and it's something you can't really plan, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, you really don't plan it. And then so guess what? So I would love to be at 100K by the end of the year, but as soon as I put that label, I feel like I'm not moving fast enough.
hmm,
So it's like, so I'm like, okay, this is unhealthy. Let me just keep doing what I was doing, just sharing for the fun of it. But I tell you what, one thing I want to do though is what you do and putting a little bit spin on it.
hmm,
And I tell that to everyone. I would love to start interviewing startups
hmm.
and
That's cool.
put it on YouTube for people to consume and understand, what world they're evolving in, how they solve problems, given that they can give me some of the work they do without, spilling company secrets and stuff. And I think it's to me, I'm a little afraid because I feel like once LinkedIn sees that I'm pulling people outside of the web, then I won't have visibility to tell people that come to YouTube and watch this video and get knowledge,
Hmm.
be instructed, right? So do I keep sharing inside of LinkedIn where I get a lot of views, or do I create a platform where people will have to go outside of LinkedIn to get, you know,
Yeah, it's a good question.
knowledge? So I'm very conflicted by
Yeah, there
that.
are people that do that though. I mean, I was looking at, I noticed Andreas Kretz, one thing he does, he'll actually post an image within LinkedIn because apparently that doesn't, it doesn't lead anywhere in the header, but then he'll put the YouTube link in the comments. And I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I do that all the time too.
Oh,
You'll
you do
you'll
that all the time?
notice
Yeah.
I barely put a link on the post itself. I put it in the comments section because you get
Uh-huh.
more views. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say, my opinion is just build your platform how you see fit. Because at the end of the day, it's like LinkedIn's going to come and go at some point, and um, and you'll have your fans, but it's kind of I don't know. I mean, there's some successful. Like Ken G does a really good job at this too. I think where
yeah,
he dominates YouTube and LinkedIn as well.
yeah, yeah. I just
So
spoke to him the other day, by the way.
nice, cool,
Yeah, yeah,
nice. That's
yeah, yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's interesting seeing. I think people's different takes, and then also there's also the option of having your own site as well, or Substack or Clubhouse or whatever the hell you want to do. I mean, there's no
Yeah,
limit to the options at this point. It's just, I think, I also kind of look at it like, where are you going to be strongest though, right? Like, where do you, because you can't be on every platform. So like, what are you going to be able
exactly.
to dedicate your attention to? Holding a job down, and like, is it one or two channels? I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking one more channel, and I can't think of anything else but YouTube.
YouTube's awesome. I mean, I'm on, I got rid of all social media except for LinkedIn.
Oh wow.
Back in like 2017 or 2018, whatever, got off Facebook. Um, last year got off Instagram, Twitter, and it's pretty much just LinkedIn because I get, personally, I just could. I mean, it was just there's too much noise, too much garbage. Especially around the election. I just, whatever few brain cells I have left, I couldn't handle that, cacophony of just bullshit. So,
I know.
I just ditched it. And then LinkedIn's cool. I mean, there's some dweebs on there for sure, but it's not
Yeah.
nearly as bad as Facebook. And YouTube, I mean, that's a mixed bag, but it's the second largest social network out there, right?
Yeah, I fully agree, man, and I can see it continue to be the best platform out there. People might say, "Oh, TikTok is the next thing," but they have to realize you have to. People don't make a side hustle as well on TikTok than they do on YouTube, for example. You have a better chance on YouTube, at least
Hmm.
for now. The way the business model is on YouTube is better from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been reluctant to get on TikTok just because of all the. I mean, we have enough surveillance with the American apps. I don't think I need like another government seeing all my data. So
That makes sense,
yeah,
man.
that's the main reason I haven't been on TikTok. Honestly, it's just because I'm like, well, I mean, like down the road is like one NSA data center. I don't need to send my data to the CCCP, or party
I know,
servers as
right?
well.
I know, right?
So
Let's pull in Joe Ray's here. What is your?
yeah, I mean, not that I have anything interesting to say. Just be a bunch of
Yeah,
like videos of cats and kids or something. But it's just I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the content games. It's interesting, and I think LinkedIn's. It seems like they're making some changes, like the creator mode or whatever that is. So very curious to see how that evolves. So.
yeah. I saw that too. So looking forward to see how it helps people grow and things. And also, I'm interested to see if at some point they'll start monetizing it too.
Mm.
Like, do you think they'll ever get there? I mean, I'm assuming at some point they'll start rewarding people who are making sure they're helping them keep people on the platform, right?
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I would think so. I know even like I read that Substack did that for some authors. When they first started, they paid you know um, you know authors with audiences to get on Substack, and so it's interesting because there's all these fiefdoms right now with content creators, right? And so
mhm.
I think Ternary had a really good article the other day, like sovereign writers, I think it was about. So people that so Substack, right? Like you're getting a lot of writers who are just choosing to go on Substack because they can't be deplatformed.
Mhm.
If you're a writer at the New York Times, for example, and say something that people don't like, I guess you don't have a job anymore. And so so you're going on a Substack, but it's interesting because these writers are, I think in some cases are getting kind of a exclusive deals to write on Substack. So I'd be curious if LinkedIn does something like that, because I mean you got hitters like Bernard Marr, for example. I think he's got 1 million plus followers or something crazy, and
Yeah,
he's in data, right? And um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean the notion of data celebrity is just interesting to me too. I didn't ever think this would be a thing, but it is. So
Yeah, I keep wondering, Ben Omar, I mean, how do you get to 1 million followers at this point? Even Ali Miller too. She
hmm
crossed 1 million recently.
yeah, it's crazy. I think I don't know. I heard that it was a lot easier back in the day to get followers. I was talking with Ben Taylor about this, and I think it just seemed like several years ago it was like the golden age of getting large follower accounts. Not to say it can't be done. I mean, you've done a fantastic job. I would say just through just putting out good content and just being consistent, and maybe that's the recipe too. So if you try
Yeah,
and game it, I think it just becomes kind of cheesy too, right?
yeah.
Because I notice people that try and game the system, their content just kind of sucks after a while.
It
So
does. It does. And I tell you, there are some people I don't want to be in their spot at some point. Like you would see 400,000 followers, and then the engagement is just almost zero. Like I
mm,
can give you a quick example. I love listening to Jason Calacanis, like when he's like kind of talking to
oh yeah,
startups, stuff like that. He's a very interesting person in the people he brings in. I always learn from them. But when you see his post, I doubt he's the one posting. But even so, when he posts, if he gets, I don't know, if he gets 10 comments, that means he did a good post and he has more than 400,000 followers.
right. That's
So
interesting.
he's probably, and he will tell you, even in the podcast, he was one of the earliest ones
Hmm.
that got inside in
Well, I've been
starting.
listening to This Week in Startup since it came out. I've been from day one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we actually used to be Twitter friends back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like he followed me for some reason. I was like, I guess, cool. But then, I guess he axed all of his followers, and I got off Twitter. But yeah, but so he's really good on Twitter, though, right? Like, and I think that's the channel he's strongest in. But
Yeah.
yeah, LinkedIn is, um, yeah, it is interesting,
Yeah.
and there's sort of like this law of diminishing returns. I think also with follower counts and engagement. So it
Hmm.
almost I think works against you because if you have too many followers, it's almost like people or feel like some disincentive actually to engage with you because you're just maybe too popular. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably not you anymore at this point, right? So
Hmm.
you probably have a virtual assistant, posting on your behalf, and so why would I waste my time responding to you because you're not going to respond to my comments anyways? So why bother, kind of thing. And
Right.
then I don't know, that's just my theory. And and to your point too, it was easier for people to get followers to a point where he was early enough in the game, and now he's at 400,000, but engagement is not there,
Hmm.
and he has very great content. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah, Scott Galloway's another one. I don't know if you follow him. He NYU professor and uh, says a lot of smart things. He's also a total smartass. But I like his content really well, and he's got a lot of followers too. And I think it's decent engagement. But again, it's interesting because I think I've seen your posts get more engagement than he has way more followers. So I don't know how that works, right? But then Jason Calacanis too. He's got like 8 times your follower count and gets like
Yeah,
eight
it's
times
like
less engagement too. So I don't know how that works.
it's like the curse of LinkedIn follower counts.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
uh,
it's interesting. But yeah, I think I mean I'm trying to build up the YouTube stuff, but I'm also not trying to like chase followers, subscribers. 'Cause I think it's like at some point um if like with your kids, they watch maybe they watch YouTube videos or something, but these really highly produced ones that are incredibly dumb. Like my kids watch Unspeakable. I don't know if your kids watch that, but it's just these guys. They just have a house and they just trash it all the time, like dumping large amounts of sand in their house and building like a volleyball setup in their living room, and just crazy stuff like that. But they get like 3 million plus views on their videos. It's nuts, and it's just I don't get it, but I'm not the audience. So,
yeah, exactly,
but
exactly, and that's how you realize there's a big world out there, right?
hmm.
So there are worlds that we're not even aware of on LinkedIn, right? So can you think about the top voice for healthcare, what that audience looks like, right?
Right.
So yeah, so it's crazy. There's a lot of things going on, and until you kind of take a peek at it, like that video that you see that your kids are looking at, that's how much value that somebody out there gives to that video of somebody building sands inside of their house.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, there's just a lot of dark matter out there that neither of us are probably aware of. Like, it's probably a top voice in plumbing or something. I mean, it's like
I know.
probably. So,
Well, they did provide multiple top voices, right? So I know there's one, the top voice for startups, top startups. They
hmm,
have different categories for sure. Top voice for education, and I saw a bunch of articles come out back in November for all of these categories. And
interesting.
I looked at a few of those, and it was quite interesting to see what these folks talk about in the audience that they pull. And that's when I realized, wow, there's so much more than just AI and data science that's being talked about on LinkedIn. and we surround yourself in this. We are actually in a black box ourselves
Oh yeah, big time.
on LinkedIn, and believe it or not, we're a tiny little black box inside of LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So that's the beauty of it, right? So which means, in other words, there are also room to grow there. So
Yeah, especially if you like did AI plus some adjacent industry that was really popular. Not saying that you should intentionally do this, but if you had a reason to, like,
mhm.
or intentionally do it, I guess just fabricate like some, like, almost like a boy band presence for your LinkedIn and just see where it goes. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting experiment. Yeah, and what does it take to become a top voice?
So when I got contacted by the editor, what they told me is they partner with their data scientist. Um, so they work with LinkedIn data scientists. They remove any content creator that work for LinkedIn are excluded, and then they look at inside of a period of a time how consistent you are with your material.
Hmm.
They look at the topic, the trending topic. So if it's around AI, data science, etc. And also they look at follower growth. They also look at engagement. Most importantly, the conversation that happens inside of that post. So as people, testimonials and saying, "Hey, I agree with this. I felt like I've learned a lot," or "This is my opinion about this," and they kind of looked at all of these things. So they set those criteria, and those are the data scientists. And then they run the query and then pull everybody that meet that criteria and kind of work towards the sorting process.
Interesting.
And they even had me write a dissertation too, because I was among the top, I think the top 20, and then they needed to separate the top 10, and they had you do a dissertation about why do you talk about these 10 trending topics? What are your thoughts? What are your future expectations on these topics, et cetera, et cetera? And then based on those things, you would make the top 10.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
never knew this.
Yeah.
Huh.
Pretty cool process. Pretty
Yeah.
intense too, because that dissertation was quite, it was quite challenging.
Wow. How long did it take how long did they give you to write it?
I'm gonna try to remember. I had probably 2 to 3 weeks. I had to write it,
Okay.
and then 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and then I had to wait another 2 weeks or three to kind of get the final answer
Hmm.
whether I made the cut or not.
Interesting. Was that kind of a nerve-wracking few weeks, or were you just like,
At this point, I was like, you know what? It started to build on me right after after I was done with the dissertation. I was like, you know what? It would be cool if I had it. Actually, I didn't care before, but you know what? It would be sweet. And that's when it started to get nerve wracking. It's after I submitted it, it kind of reality set in, and then I started asking, hey, you know what? Uh, let's see if we're gonna make the top 10. And then I got the message that I made it, and they told me when they were gonna make the post. Uh,
oh, interesting. So it's a top 10 then, and then so for data, and then is there a further selection process after the 10, or is that it?
no, the 10 is done. The top 10
Okay.
in the world. So this is just for data science and AI.
Mm.
And then they even have a top voice for um, I guess technology. They have multiple categories in the top voices. They have top voice Australia, top voice India, all this stuff. Um,
Right. Yeah. A buddy of mine, Ku, he got the one in Singapore.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. But this one was kind of like worldwide top voice for AI and
That's
data science.
cool. Wow. That's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's quite funny, and I was surprised too. So where they put me to, and the number they were gonna put me, I never knew. So to put me on top of Andrew Yang, I was like, what, really?
Wait, seriously? Wow.
Yeah. Did you see the article?
I did not. No. No, I probably should.
Yeah,
But
I can pull it. I can pull it up for you now,
yeah, let me just enable sharing real quick. Yeah, go for it.
and then you can open it. Maybe you can share it if you want, and you can share it on your screen. It was quite the surprise for me. I'm like, wait, you mean to tell me my performance was better than Andrew? Then, and I look at it too, I see so many big folks there that I felt so unworthy. We're talking about Cassie Korsikov. I'm on top of her. I'm like, no way. I mean, you put me in a room with people like this, I will shrink.
Right. Like, can I get you a glass of water or something? Like,
I know.
yeah,
I'm the designated coffee man, okay? I'm
yeah.
taking coffee for everybody, right? So do not ask me about anything. I'm here to learn from you all. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And it was quite interesting. It was it
Wow,
was a good it was a good deal.
that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. And what was nice about it is, those are folks that I remember that quality pipeline I was telling you
Hmm.
about. These are folks that I follow to make sure I learned a thing or two about data science, right? And then I would take what I learned and put a spin on it. So that's why I find this like really, really, really cool. Is that um, I don't know how they pulled the number to kind of estimate that my engagement, my growth was better than the others. I just don't understand it. But hey, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
That's cool.
So yeah, sending you the article now, so
Cool.
you should see it now. Let me see. Let's see
Is it in the
comment.
Zoom chat or?
Oh yeah. I can do Zoom chat. Uh, yeah, you you will see.
Yeah, no worries.
Hang on, I kind of lost it. It's close by. I had to scroll down my LinkedIn to get to it, and it's a pain to just
Yeah,
go
the
walk you through
navigation
it.
I would say in LinkedIn is not the best.
I'll tell you what, man. The whole what do you call messages?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Goodness. Don't get me started on that one. It's a killer for me. I'm there you go. Check it out.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, let me share this with the audience here real quick.
Yeah. And they kind of explain how they did the sorting too.
It's Greg. Yay. Nice, man. That's so cool. Andrew. Hey, no, he's nobody. Don't worry about him. Cassie, never heard of her.
Yeah, I know, right?
Chip, yeah,
He is
whatever.
awesome. I love him. I know, right?
David, yeah,
He is mad.
Brandon, yeah, cool, whatever. Ellie, Andre, yeah, never, just Greg. Awesome, man. That is so cool.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was a good feeling and a cool achievement, right? So definitely not something I planned and but something I fully embrace
Hmm.
and talk about talk about the pressure to continue to like that made me conscious of okay, now you better not post some crap, right?
Hmm.
So for the next month after that, I was like, oh my goodness, I have to think about what I need to do. And then I was like, okay, let's not worry about that. Let's continue to do the same thing
It's a
and
good
share and
mindset,
grow
though, right?
together.
Because otherwise, it becomes like this weird job that you're not even getting paid for, and um, it's just a ton of pressure. So,
Exactly.
yeah, and
So
plus you don't want to screw up what made you successful in the first place, right? It's although I know that the algorithm keeps changing and
hmm
whatnot, but it's yeah. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, though, I think it's your accountability is just to your audience, and you know,
exactly.
yeah. Because we're friends
You're
with
right.
several other people who have obtained top voice before, and it's interesting because you talk to them, and it's the ones who are I think still producing content, or they've just realized they just need to focus on making good content, and that's it. The
That's
rest takes
it.
care of itself.
That's it.
Hmm.
I realize it too, and I think it's the best because at some point you're going to, get yourself stressed over it. And as you say, algorithms, they change, they get updated, and they might get updated to give other people a fair chance. So
Mm.
what you do might not be relevant for this year coming up, right? So they're letting another like wave of top voices show up for this year, and there's nothing you could have done to be in that pot, right? So why stress over it?
Huh.
So,
Well, maybe one of these years I'll be in that group too. But yeah, it's something I've actually focused on at all. It's interesting because I'm actually glad there are other people getting that designation for the reason that you just said. Because it's like, I feel like I'm still pretty early in my own content journey. And it's I think getting something like a designation like that might ruin it a bit earlier, or at least cause some unneeded pressure. When you're just
hmm
trying to stay focused. So. Like definitely under.
exactly,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
rad though, and yeah, I'm just glad you keep doing what you're doing. 'Cause I noticed like when you got your that designation, and it didn't seem like it changed your game at all, which I think is actually good in this case. Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there
so
are some good sides to it too. It really did open up a lot of other doors for me. So
that's cool.
I, I hosted a couple events recently. I got in touch with like executives too, where I talked to them about their pain points.
Cool.
I don't think there's a. It gives me a little bit of weight to be able to have a conversation with a CEO of a startup, for example. I must admit that it did open those doors for me,
That's
or
cool.
chief marketing officer, chief, or CEO or chief executive officer, you name it. Being able to have conversations with them, understanding their business models, figuring out how to help them, and because my long term game is to transform myself to as a startup investor and
Hmm.
advisor and things like that. So
Very cool.
I have those plans for sure, and I'm just trying to see what was the best way to do that without selling my soul, right? Because I just don't want to partner with some fake stuff and lose who I really want to be and how
Hmm.
I feel like AI should be serving the world and things like that. I have to be careful with that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's an interesting journey too, because especially when you're getting into the realm of startups, it's like it's great. It's also like the land of make believe, inherently
Yeah,
because you're like selling a dream about a business that
yeah,
will hopefully take off someday. And it's the types of people that attracts. I think there's definitely some people of character. There's also, I would say, a disproportionate amount of people who lack integrity and uh, any sort of character at all.
exactly. I
So,
always say for every Theranos in healthcare, there is one for other industries, right? So
oh
there's
yeah,
going to be Theranos of AI. It's out there.
I've seen these. I mean, and in fact, part of what I've done, and is uh, sometimes I'm brought in to evaluate AI claims just because there's a lot of bullshit out there. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But these same companies they get crazy amounts of money too, and I'm like, who are these investors giving them money? Like,
I know.
you just pissed away
I
your
know.
money.
My goodness. I mean, these are the things that make me want to adventure in a startup myself. Knowing that I have to surround myself with like super smart people because I know for sure on the technical side that's not going to be me. And it's because of the ton of money that's being poured out there. It's because people see opportunities. Um, I just haven't gotten around that yet
Hmm.
because I'm super busy at work at
Right.
one, and it's quite impossible for me to write something. Which, by the way, I'm doing. I am starting something
Cool.
in the transportation piece,
Nice.
but I'm just super early, and I'm still debating: do I take this and do I submit something to Y Combinator and then Y Combinator is going to tell me, come here for 3 months at this point? It's going to be the biggest decision of my life. Here I am bringing my family to the West Coast. And now I have to tell them I'm leaving, and then I have to go to Cali for 3 months. Uh, it's crazy, man. It's there are so many pros and cons to these things, and again, I
It's an
have to choose
interesting one.
carefully.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I talked to quite a few people doing AI and data startups. It's a fascinating period right now in the whole data tooling space, especially irrespective of how you're going to apply AI to specific verticals. But there's a lot of smart people getting a lot of investment. And the crazy thing is, if you go in any niche right now, um, you know, you have the archetype founder, right? They went to one of the like Stanford, worked at a FANG company. Now they're getting investments from a top tier investment firm, and this is like a lot of companies, which is kind of crazy, right? And so
Yeah,
it's actually talking to one guy actually a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. He's actually getting ready for demo days at Y Combinator.
nice.
Yeah, and he said it was awesome. The experience is great. Uh, you have access to kind of the Y Combinator alum as well, which is pretty nice. So I mean, and you get lessons from people like Patrick Collison from
Hmm.
Stripe. I mean, that's pretty damn cool actually.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so it's a
absolutely.
it's a pressure cooker though, from what it sounded like too. Like it's not just like hanging out, broing out all day and playing ping pong. I mean, you're working your ass off.
I
So,
don't know. Yeah, yeah,
mm,
exactly. But since we're in the conversation of AI, you know what I want to start, what I feel like is going to start happening. I think we're at the downhill towards the whole like buzzword of AI.
kind of moving
Right?
towards the trough of disillusionment or something.
Yes, and
Yeah.
and what I want to see, and I'm okay with it, and because what I want to see is I want to hear more stories about people solving real issues, right? Like, well, tell me about the environment, right? So we're producing CO2, we're polluting the planet. How do we slow that down? How do we create like a cool technology for it? I know there's this company that showed up with a, a motor that consumes way less energy than a typical motor, and it would save millions and millions of dollars across industries. And those are the stories that I want to continue hearing. I want to continue hearing stories about things like SpaceX, Blue Origin, solving not necessarily an issue, but the challenge of reducing transportation costs to different planets and paving the way for human species to become a planetary species.
Yeah.
And those are the things that they will use AI, but AI will not be the buzzword. AI will be the tool that helps them get there, or
Well,
one
yeah.
of the
I mean,
tools that
it's kind
helps
of
them get
like back when electricity came out. I mean, that was kind of cool. People talked about it, but nowadays, like electricity powers everything, and so you're not like saying, oh yeah, my house is like, it's powered by electricity. People would be like,
there. Yeah.
and so what? So,
Yeah.
and the other piece of that too was, I can't remember. I was trying to look for the book on my phone, but there's a book I read where the woman who wrote it talked about how actually the best time to start a company is in the trough of disillusionment. When you're in the first peak, that's when everybody gets involved, and by everybody, it's like everybody we're just talking about, good or bad. But in the trough of disillusionment, most of those companies die. But also, when it ramps up to something that has eventual viability,
Hmm.
tends to be the best part because all the noise has been filtered out, and then you have to like actually focus on real use cases that you can legitimately bring to market, not just a pitch deck that says we do AI, so give me $10 million. Just
It's
kind of
interesting that you put it this way. I really see it happening like that, really. And we're coming into a time where across industries they're not understanding how to leverage it
mhm.
for their business processes. Like manufacturing is one; it's huge. You will continue to hear a lot of improvements made there. Really, it's going to be if you're a service provider for AI, let me plug into my existing systems, help me save money, help me make more money,
Mhm.
or help me capture opportunities that I wasn't fast enough at capturing. Those are the use cases that you're going to continue hearing. And then at the same time, you want to keep an eye on cool innovations, right? Quantum computing, quantum machine learning, all these things. They'll happen for sure, but the majority is just going to be adoption by different companies.
Mm-hmm.
We're approaching the next 5 years, 5, 10 years of adoption by medium, small companies, where, just like you say, it won't be fancy anymore to say, oh, I use AI to perform this or that kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's going to solve specific use cases, right? I mean, that's more and more what I'm seeing are like point solutions that may or may not be AI enabled, but they just do a job better. And like at the end of the day, that's what people are buying. Like I don't think anyone in the right mind is going to just buy AI. Any company is just going to do AI just for the hell of it. Like that's weird. I mean, it's like it's just such a. But that's what a lot of companies I think have been sold
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
press.
yeah.
Like, oh, you need to be doing AI. And so the natural tendency is, okay, so if I'm going to do that, I need to go find smart data scientists and hire them and, and find work for them to do, or maybe they can just invent work. And I mean, it's a cycle that ends up, I think, just sort of not producing as much value as it ideally could. But people are figuring this out now, right? Like, back in the mid 2010s, it was definitely a much different story. Everybody was trying to hop onto the, big data and AI gravy train. And people are, I think to your point, they're becoming a lot more realistic about what's doable. And also,
Hmm.
what capabilities as a company do you need to have in order to take advantage of these technologies, right? It's not as simple as just hiring a bunch of data scientists and letting them do their stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're going to see adoption from those who don't feel the need to rebrand themselves, like
mhm.
the toilet paper makers, right?
Yeah, the AI label maker, right? Like
Exactly.
you know, I mean,
Exactly.
they're just doing it because it just makes their processes better, not just like a buzzword.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and the
And
things
that
I'm
buzzword
bullish
is
on too.
everywhere.
I'm
Hmm.
bullish on stuff like AR and VR too. Like I know that we've been in this like VR winter for like the past 30 years almost or 40, but I've been dorking around with augmented reality on even on the iPhone for a bit, and like I think that's going to be interesting to watch because it uses a lot
Yeah.
of machine learning in it actually. So
Yeah. And also the world of avatars too, right? Are
mhm.
we always placing ourselves up for a, I guess, a multi world, right? So you
Mhm.
have the digital world and physical world, and uh, people are gonna find ways to blend them seamlessly, where you can have two characters uh, in a bank account for both characters, right? The physical and the digital,
Mhm.
where you can have goods and services in both. It's an interesting thing. So
Yeah.
I think you'll hear that, and I wonder if the next trillionaire will be the one who will build that ecosystem of virtual reality,
Yeah.
uh, or the next trillionaire, right? So it's interesting.
Well, it's probably your boss who's going to do that. So not your immediate one, but the
Yeah,
main
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
So, or it might just be somebody you don't know of. It might be one of your kids. That's the other thing. Things can go so many different directions. I mean, I've been in technology long enough and been on the internet long enough where it's just like I'm not surprised by anything. And I suspend any disbelief is what I'm saying because I never write off technologies. People are still trying to figure out NFTs. I'm like I have no idea about them, but I'm sure they'll turn into something interesting, just because that's how technology goes, and it goes in directions that what I find interesting is like when you try and predict a direction of a technology or a new paradigm, it almost never goes the way you think it is.
Hmm.
Because it's too
Blockchain, for
obvious.
example.
Blockchain, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
money is the first thing that comes to mind. But I mean, we've been using and Bitcoin's been around for a long time now, actually.
Hmm.
And only recently are even large banks and financial institutions figuring it out how to use it, and but you still can't spend it really anyway. Like, where can you spend Bitcoin?
Yeah,
What can
yeah,
you buy
yeah.
with it?
Yeah, yeah. 10 years later, right? You're wondering what has Bitcoin done for society, right? It has made a couple people, digitally rich, they can convert some of that, but also it's not even that too. Is for years now I've heard the underlying technology will be so good for society. And to your point, banks are now trying to figure out how to leverage this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet to see more and more use cases leverage it. You're starting to hear it more where you have, supply chain applications and things like that. And I am eager to see a little bit more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Show up.
exactly. It just takes a while. I mean, people. Um, it takes a while for people to figure things out, right? And the applications are everyone gravitates towards what's going to be easiest at first, and they realize that's probably actually the hardest because everyone
Yeah,
else is involved, and so you have all
yeah,
this competition
yeah,
trying to do the same thing. And then as you saw with Bitcoin, the other piece of it is it attracts a lot of shysters because
yeah.
it's get rich quick, so that just attracts a certain type of person. But all the hard work, the blockchain stuff, that's totally different, and that could be interesting. So
Yeah, the supply chain, for example, one thing that's interesting is to see if they can crack the whole provenance use case when it comes to child abuse or child what do you call workers,
mm-hmm.
um, or the diamond use case, right?
Oh yeah,
Or the chocolate or cocoa use case, things like that, uh, where they can certify that it didn't come from compromised areas.
right.
You be able to trace those things and confirm that it was you know it was sourced uh, well and not compromising the reputation of a company and things like that. So um, I'm assuming blockchain can tackle some of these cases. Hopefully,
Let's hope so. Yeah,
yeah,
'cause it needs to
yeah,
be solved. So
yeah, exactly, exactly.
well, cool. Coming up on time, but I think it's been a fun conversation. I'd like to have you back on again at some point. So it's always
Absolutely.
good to chat with you, man. So
It was a
awesome.
blast, man. I really had fun. So definitely
Likewise.
looking forward to doing it again.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that. And then for people who I guess want to find out more about you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Definitely LinkedIn. My link is pretty simple. Greg Coquillo. You search me and you'll find me. Coquillo. And I'm happy to talk to anyone and have a nice conversation. And I like to hold one-on-ones too and learn
Cool.
about people. You have some GitHub repositories where I can learn. I want to be your friend.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, we'll talk to you soon, man. So
Thank you, Joe.
have a good one. All right, take care.
You too.
Bye.
Take
See you.
care.